Hey guys, this is Ryan Adams from Motorcycle.com here in the Catalan wine country to check out Royal Enfield's new Guerilla 450. Support the brands that support us. So the Guerilla 450 is kind of a street scrambler style bike and standard bike, whatever you want to call it. It is heavily based on the Himalayan, with a lot of the foundational components being the same. The frame is slightly tweaked in its geometry, but otherwise a lot of things are similar between these two bikes. And they were developed kind of simultaneously, although the Guerilla obviously came out after the Himalayan. This engine is putting out 40 horsepower and about 30 pound-feet of torque. And really, there's a little bit of a mapping change to tailor this to a more sporty ride for the Guerilla 450. But really the only thing that's changed in terms of the real hardware is that the rear sprocket is 2 teeth smaller. So now we've got a 15:45 final drive ratio. But Royal Enfield tells us that the real difference that you feel in the saddle on the throttle is coming from mapping changes, because although they changed this rear sprocket size, the rear wheel is also smaller. We've got 17-inch wheels on both sides on this thing to give it a little bit more of a sporty experience. So really that's gonna be the biggest difference there. Today on our ride, I would say, north of 4,500 RPM, you'd get a little bit of vibration coming in through the foot pegs, but zero in the handlebars. It's a really comfortable bike, nothing in the seat. We had a good spirited rip. Everything from getting out of Barcelona to then getting into the hills to have a good rip through the kind of twisty roads out here. And it's been great around town, whether you're soft on the throttle. I actually changed it to eco mode in town because the more performance oriented mode was actually just a little more direct throttle than I cared for in town. So I just hit eco, smooths everything out. And then once you have a little bit more open spaces and whatnot, getting into that performance mode is definitely the way to go, because it has much more direct throttle response and it kind of picks up the power a lot quicker. And I mean, honestly, out here, the way we've been riding, just, like a bunch of fools, being safe, of course, but, having a lot of fun on these bikes, chasing each other down. The bike really doesn't mind getting revved out. It's not kind of like what you think maybe from a single cylinder engine that's, you really want to keep it in the mid-range and super punchy low on the low RPM. This bike is very happy in the mid to top end of its rev range. So yeah, this bike is supposed to be about 27 pounds lighter than the Himalayan for obvious reasons. You got a bunch of different things that aren't on this bike that are on the Himalayan, but also you have a much smaller tank. This tank is 2.9 gallons. So you got a lot of weight loss there, both in fuel and the tank shape itself, which I've also got to point out, this is a beautifully sculpted tank. It looks great. The rear fender looks great. It all carries its lines very well. Whether or not you're a fan of the Lakers color scheme, that's your own deal. It's not my vibe, but there's actually 4 other variants of this motorcycle that have their own unique look. And there's some really cool things and some really unique paint jobs that are paint jobs and not just decals. But back to the weight, this thing's about probably between 405 and 410 pounds. It is kept pretty low though, so bouncing around town, you don't really feel it too much. Pulling it off the kickstand, it's really not bad. And with the like 30-inch seat height, it's gonna be really approachable for a large swath of riders, whether you're new, short, normal, whatever. This thing's gonna work out for a lot of people, I think. And then getting out here into the canyon roads and picking up the pace a bit, it was really cool to feel how agile the bike was in town, but then out here in the canyon roads, the Showa suspension on each end it's completely unadjustable except for preload on the shock. But the damping seems to be really well sorted. We were getting through some bumps, it's just straight line, under braking, and then in fast corners, and the bike stayed completely stable. It is a decent amount shorter than the Himalayan as well, and it does feel a little quicker to turn. Obviously the 17-inch wheels are gonna help that too, but it really hasn't lost much of the stability that was great on the Himalayan when that bike first came out, and that's what we first got to test kind of in this new platform. So yeah, like I mentioned before, there are 5 different variants, and I say variants versus colors because some of these bikes, things don't just change in tank and fender colors. You also get different colors on the subframe, wheels, things like that. So, you know, like we've seen Royal Enfield do in the past with other models, you do get a nice swath of color options. Stuff from, you know, a more subdued, just kind of straight silver to, you know, from mild to wild, like with this this color scheme here. Although we haven't seen US pricing, and I don't think we will for some time, we haven't even gotten US pricing for the Himalayan at this point. We did get European pricing, which this bike is going to be starting at 4,850 pounds in the UK, and then like 5,290 euros. So that kind of gives you a base to have an idea of where it might come out once we get numbers stateside. But as far as things sit now, we've got a little bit of a wait till we get this model in the States. I've been told probably spring of 25. So we definitely have some time to wait on this one, but I think it's going to be a great seller. I think the Himalayan's going to be great. The one before it was good, and you know, had its own niche characteristic, and I really love that. And while I don't know if the retro vibe comes through in the newest Himalayan, it's still a really great platform. And what's also been great, just to throw in there, is the first time I tested this engine and this new platform in the Himalayan was in the Himalayas. So we were at a quite high elevation, 16,000 feet. And it's been nice to get a taste of this engine at closer to sea level, right at sea level. It's a little more lively than it was in the Himalayan mountains. So it's been a great day. We're not done yet. We're gonna get back out there, have a little bit more of a ride, and see what else we can figure out about this bike. This also has the same TFT display with the Google Map integration that's really cool that we saw. It's the exact same thing as the Himalayan had. So that's a cool feature to see here, and it's got all sorts of phone connectivity if you want to get into that. If you don't need to. But you have that option, as well as a USB-C port up here. Yeah, so far, so good today. Looking forward to spending more time on it. The seat's been comfortable. Ergos are spot on for me. I'm 5'8" with a 30-inch inseam, basically perfect. And it's easy when you want to kind of get a little more aggressive when you're cruising through twisty roads. It's been a good time, and I'm looking forward to spending the second half of our day ripping through the rest of the Catalan wine country. But that's it for me for now. If you want to check out the full write-up, head on over to Motorcycle.com. We'll have the specs, everything listed there. And thanks for watching, guys.